Have you ever been gripped by a quiet sense of dread? A nagging question like, what is the point of all this? Perhaps it hits you at night when distractions are gone, and the reality that your future is uncertain and your choices are endless comes crashing in. This feeling, often called existential anxiety, can make life feel hollow and overwhelming at the same time. What if, instead of running from this anxiety, you faced it head-on and discovered true freedom in the process? Jean-Paul Sartre, a 20th century French philosopher and leading figure in existentialism, believed our deep anxieties about life actually reveal our capacity for authentic self-creation. Today, we'll explore how Sartre's radical ideas about freedom, responsibility, and authentic living can help you transform existential dread into personal power. Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905 to 1980, was a French philosopher, playwright, novelist, and political activist. He's widely regarded as one of the founders of modern existentialism, a philosophical movement focused on individual freedom, choice, and the search for meaning in a seemingly indifferent universe. Sartre's core works, like Being and Nothingness and Existentialism is a Humanism, challenged traditional assumptions, highlighting the individual's responsibility to define their own essence. In an era overshadowed by the devastation of World War II, Sartre's message was both liberating and unnerving. He argued that we are utterly free, more free than we typically wish to admit. Yet, with that freedom comes the weight of responsibility. Existential anxiety emerges because we realize we must choose our path without any external guarantee or cosmic blueprint. Before diving into Sartre's roadmap, let's clarify existential anxiety. It's that unsettling awareness that life doesn't come with inherent meaning. Instead, we are free to create our own meaning, and that freedom can be terrifying. This anxiety often manifests as indecision, fear of making the wrong choice, since no objective rulebook dictates your direction. Identity crisis, unsure who you truly are when social roles or traditions no longer provide all the answers. Dread of emptiness, worry that, in the end, nothing you do really matters, breeding a sense of cosmic insignificance. Sartre recognized that such anxieties aren't faults to be eliminated, but signals of our profound liberty. In a sense, they remind us that we are free and responsible to shape our own essence, an exhilarating but daunting task. One of Sartre's most famous existential slogans is, "Existence precedes essence." Traditionally, philosophers argued we have an inherent essence, some predetermined nature or purpose, that dictates who we are. Sartre flipped this notion on its head. We first exist in the world, and only then do we create who we are through choices and actions. What does this have to do with anxiety? According to Sartre, the realization that no essence or fate predetermines your life can feel like being dropped in the middle of an empty stage with no script. You're the writer, the director, and the lead actor, all in one. Every choice you make, what career you pursue, who you befriend, your moral stance, contributes to shaping the essence of you. This absolute freedom can trigger existential anxiety because it means there is no one else to blame if your choices feel unfulfilling. You're perpetually faced with infinite possibilities. You can't hide behind a given nature or cosmic blueprint. You must author your life. Sartre famously wrote that we are condemned to be free. To many, freedom is a wonderful gift, but Sartre emphasizes its heavy burden, since no external authority, God, tradition, nature, can define our essence. We bear the weight of choosing for ourselves. We might crave a definitive answer, someone or something to say, here is your path. But existentialism denies us that comfort. This perspective explains why existential anxiety can feel overwhelming. Freedom is exciting, but also condemns us to constant choice. We might long for a cosmic sign or guaranteed formula, yet find ourselves alone, forced to navigate the moral and existential landscape with no absolute map. Interestingly, Sartre saw hope in this condemnation. If you can accept it, you gain the courage to create a life that's truly your own. If existential anxiety is so uncomfortable, how do we typically cope? One dangerous route is through what Sartre called bad faith, mauvaise foi. This occurs when you deceive yourself into thinking you don't have choices or that your role or identity is fixed. For instance, a person says, "I can't follow my passion because I was born into a modest background." Another shrugs, "I just have to do what my family wants. I have no say." Or, "I'm just a cog in this corporate machine. I can't be anything else." These statements deny the reality of your freedom. Sartre calls this bad faith because you hide from the responsibility and anxiety of forging your own path. You pretend to be an object shaped by external forces rather than acknowledging your human capacity to choose differently. While bad faith temporarily soothes anxiety, you no longer have to worry about big existential questions. It locks you in a prison of self-deception. So, how does Sartre suggest we confront existential anxiety without falling into bad faith? His radical roadmap includes the following principles. 1. Embrace your radical freedom. Accept that you always have the power to choose. Even in constraints, like social or economic limits, you still decide how to respond. Denial of choice only prolongs anxiety by fostering self-deception. 2. Take responsibility for your decisions. Because you choose, you are accountable for the outcomes. Sartre doesn't suggest punishing yourself for mistakes, but taking ownership. Once you realize you can shape your future, you become an active participant in your life instead of a passive observer. 3. Define your own values. Since no objective moral code or essence is handed down from above, you're free and obligated to decide what matters to you. This means crafting a personal moral or value system that resonates with your experiences and convictions. 4. Act authentically. Authenticity means recognizing your freedom, owning your choices, and living in alignment with the values you choose. Authentic living counters existential anxiety by giving you a self-determined anchor in a world with no absolute anchors. 5. Tolerate the anxiety as a growth sign. Instead of fleeing from existential angst, see it as a signal that you're aware of your freedom and the seriousness of your choices. This anxiety can be harnessed as motivation to live more intensely and purposefully. Let's bring this down to daily life. How do you use Sartre's insights to handle that gnawing sense of dread? 1. Observe moments of decision. The next time you feel anxious about a big or small choice, choosing a career, deciding how to spend your weekend, pause and note the freedom you have. Even in constraints, maybe you're short on money, you still choose how to allocate resources or how to interpret your situation. Acknowledge your anxiety, but also acknowledge your capacity to act. 2. Conduct a value inventory. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What do I want to stand for in this life? If you find your answers revolve around inherited or borrowed ideals you don't genuinely feel, give yourself permission to question them. This might induce some dread. Abandoning old traditions is scary, but it's essential for forging an authentic path. 3. Embrace imperfection and ambiguity. No formula ensures a perfect decision. Sartre would argue that searching for certainty or absolute correctness is a form of bad faith. Accepting life's inherent ambiguity actually reduces existential anxiety because you stop trying to force tidy answers out of a messy universe. You make your best choices, fully aware no universal blueprint can confirm or deny them. 4. Engage in reflective action. Living existential freedom isn't just philosophical pondering, it's daily action. If you feel called to a creative pursuit, take practical steps. Write, paint, record music. If you desire deeper connections, initiate conversations. Plan meaningful activities. Action cements your chosen values, reshaping your identity and alleviating anxiety by proving you can define your essence. To see how this might look in real life, let's consider 2 examples. The stuck professional. Imagine a corporate employee who feels stifled, yet assures themselves, "This is just my fate." They see no alternative. After reading Sartre, they realize their bad faith. They can choose. They might explore side projects or pivot careers, not rashly, but from a place of self-awareness. The existential anxiety they feel about an uncertain future transforms into excitement for self-guided transformation. The concerned student. A college student chooses a major solely because it's prestigious. They sense an internal conflict, boredom, dread, fear that they're on the wrong path. Confronting Sartre's ideas, they accept that existence precedes essence. There's no destined major. They pivot to a field aligned with deeper interests. Anxiety persists, but it now signals the freedom to shape their education, rather than being locked into a scripted path. In both cases, existential anxiety becomes a catalyst for forging new directions. By recognizing the illusions of necessity, these individuals step into authenticity, using dread as a sign that they are free to choose again. Perhaps the hardest part of Sartre's existential approach is facing a universe with no ultimate guarantees. Even if you fully embrace your freedom, there's no cosmic judge to say, "Great job, you found the correct path." That can evoke vertigo, like standing on a cliff with infinite possibilities. But Sartre would say that once you accept the absence of cosmic validation, you stop waiting for external permission. You become the author, no longer needing to appease an invisible judge. While you might still feel anxious about your choices, that anxiety is far less paralyzing than trying to fit into a non-existent universal plan. Freed from illusions of preordained meaning, you engage life wholeheartedly, co-creating meaning with every step you take. Of course, adopting Sartre's approach isn't without risks. Isolation or excessive individualism. Over-focusing on personal freedom can neglect social bonds or empathy. Balancing your authenticity with genuine relationships is crucial. Other people can be part of your chosen values, not a threat to your freedom. Bad faith redux. Ironically, you can fall back into new forms of self-deception, like proclaiming, "I'm free," but still being guided by fear or ego. Regular introspection helps keep your authenticity genuine. Naive rebellion. True freedom isn't just about defying norms for the sake of it. Sartre's stance is about reflective choice. A rebellious posture without self-awareness can be as inauthentic as blind conformity. While these pitfalls exist, the reward for navigating them is a life brimming with purposeful choices and honest living. The existential anxiety that once paralyzed you becomes a pointer toward your capacity to choose. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism is at once liberating and unnerving. Yet, it directly tackles the root of existential anxiety, the realization that you alone define your path. You can see this truth as a burden, condemned to be free, or a gift enabling you to shape your life with creative, authentic action. Embracing the notion that existence precedes essence means trusting yourself to invent meaning rather than discovering it ready-made. It means acknowledging each anxious pang as evidence you are not an object passively drifting through life, but a person with the power of self-determination. That is the radical message. You are free, and that very freedom is the key to overcoming existential dread. So next time you feel that knot in your stomach, asking, "What if I don't know who I should be or what I should do?" Pause. Recognize that your anxiety is the flip side of your deepest liberty. You can step forward, choose a path, and build your essence with open eyes. In doing so, you transform existential fear into the fuel for a life of authenticity and bold self-creation. Thank you for joining me on this journey.